G'day fellas, and welcome to another Age of Empires 4 video on the brand new Knights of Cross and Rose DLC. Today, we're taking a look at the House of Lancaster and at a fast Imperial strategy. So let's get into it. This is a build order guide for you, and I will just start by saying you don't have to go fast Imperial for this. That's more the strategy, whereas the build order is probably going to be something that people will look to try and pick up on a more regular basis. So let's get into it. The goal here is that we want to be getting all 9 of our manors up as quickly as possible. I think this is probably going to make quite a bit of sense in some matchups. So say as an example against an economic civilization that isn't going to focus too much on relics. It's also going to make sense in some team games as well. So anyway, let's get into it and take a look at the build. So we're going to start off with all 6 villages on food, and the town center is going to start training vills, and then we're going to move our scout out across the map. We start off with quite a bit of sheep here. It doesn't matter if you get 0 sheep. It doesn't matter if you get 1,000,000 sheep. You're always going to be happy with this build order. From here, we're now going to start rallying out towards gold. With regard to gold positioning, I don't think it makes a big difference. The main thing to remember is we are going to be putting our landmark, which is going to be the Lancaster Castle. We're going to be putting that on our gold. So we're always going to be offsetting our mining camp just a little bit, just to make sure that our villagers are going to have a bias towards the left side, rather than just being completely... Because the problem is if you put the mining camp on, or... you know, down at basically a tile, what's going to happen is all your villagers are going to come down along this edge, and it will mean that longbows that are over here might be able to get them off the gold. It's just a little bit about preserving them. So second vill that comes out is going to start working on the house, so you're going to start off with 2 vills on gold. Third villager is going to come out towards gold as well. We're not going to be too fussed about our scout over here. He's doing a little bit of ice skating at the moment. So 3 villagers to gold. We've got our 6 villagers on food that we started off with. From here, we're now going to be rallying out a 7th villager onto food. So nice simple opening so far. 6 vills on food, 3 out to gold, 1 villager now coming out onto food. So once we've got that 1 villager out onto food, we're going to be doing a stone movement. And the idea here is that we want to start bringing in that stone for our manors, because we are going to need 200 wood, 100 stone for each one. And I will just say right now that this build order, I have optimized it as much as I possibly can. I've probably tried to play through, I'd say around 12 to 13 different styles of openings. And yeah, this is the one I've been quite happy to settle on. So now we're going to come out here. We're going to drop the mining camp out here. We're going to be going up to 3 villages out here for the moment. Now we're going to be coming back towards our gold villages, and all we're going to be doing is just waiting for them to cross over that 200 gold. And once they've crossed over that 200 gold, it should be a couple of seconds, but we'll just be waiting for that food to come in, and we're ready to go in 3, 2, 1, and boom, straight down. And we're making sure it sits adjacent. That way our villagers are going to be sitting in between all 3 of these. 1, 2, 3, all 3. They'll be sitting right at the top here, and be able to gather up nice and safely. So now that we've done that, we're moving out the villager over onto the wood line. We're just grabbing a food vill for that, and our 3rd villager is now going to be coming out towards stone. So this start will look familiar to any of you who have seen the previous video that we did on the build order for the House of Lancaster. So let's take a look, or let's take a stock take here. So the 3 vills on gold, these guys are going to be building our manors. And now that we've got the 3 on stone, what we're now doing is rallying our vills out towards the wood line. And the moment that that villager comes out, we're going to be handing in our food. We're going to be bringing in our vills over onto wood. So from here, we're now going to be rallying the town center onto this. So if we take a look, we're at 8 vills on wood, 3 vills on stone, and we've got the 3 gold vills that are going to be building our manors. From here, we're now going to be looking to add in more villagers onto food, and we're not going to be adding a lot of vills onto food, because keep in mind when we do drop those manors down, we are going to be getting that trickle of food that is going to be coming through, so that is quite important to consider. So after we've got the 3 villagers on food, which we're about to have, we then got to start rallying out to stone again, and it gets a little bit more, I wouldn't say unconventional, but just gets a little bit, you know, it's not the easiest of build orders, just because there are quite a few more steps in it, just simply because we are trying to optimize as much as we can to getting those 9 manors up on time. So now that we've dropped off our sheep, as you can see, we've got quite a few sheep here. It's not a huge deal, but the main focus here is once we've got those 3 villagers on food, we're now going to be rallying them out towards stone. We want to get 2 additional villagers on stone, and 1 additional villager out onto wood. And that's going to be all the vills that we need on stone, on wood, for the majority, or for the rest of this game, or at least for the rest of this build order. So now that the age up is about to come through 355, immediately we're going to drop down our first manor. It is going to go down back over here. We're going to try and keep it all nice and aligned. And now from here, we've rallied out our 4th villager over onto stone. So we'll do 1 more villager out onto stone. At the same time, we're going to continue working towards our manors. Now, keep in mind that the resources might not be aligned at this stage. You can see that we're a little bit slow to hit that 200 wood mark. We might be a little bit slower to hit our 3 mana benchmark, but in the end, we're going to be faster to hit our 9 mana benchmark. And that's really what matters, because that's what's going to be capping you on things like your levies. So we're now going to put down our 2nd mana. That is our 5th villager now coming out over to stone. So now that we've done that, we're going to be rallying out towards wood. Now, keep in mind, if you're having trouble following along with this, all the notes for this build order are down in the pinned comment. So make sure you go check that out. Chuck it in a notepad for yourself and be able to follow along. Maybe give it a couple of practice runs before you take it on into the ladder. So now from this point, so we'll just do a quick little pause here. So after the first mana has come online, you're then free to move these 3 villages away from food. You don't need any more vills on food. The manors are going to do it all for you, and they're going to be generating food every 6 or 7 seconds or so. So these 3 vills are just going to now come out over onto gold. So they're going to form part of this contingency. So we've got 3 here from the initial start, 3 here from this start. We've got 9 vills over on wood, which means our town center is now rallied towards gold as well. It might seem like we've got a lot of vills on gold, and it only continues to get crazier, but that's just because we're generating so many resources from the manor that realistically it seems kind of crazy, but yeah, I assure you it is more than reasonable. So now we're going to drop down our 3rd and final mana. I think it came down at about 505, so slightly slower than your standard 5-minute benchmark, but these are all things that are required just for the purpose of making sure that we get the fastest possible timing for all 9 manas. The issue that you have, the primary barrier to this is actually the gold generation that you've got, because you need to get condensed land practices. It's quite expensive, 250 gold, so we need to make sure that we find all the villagers and get them out onto this position to be able to get those upgrades through. So while we've been doing this, we've been gathering up our stone, we've been gathering up our wood, we're starting to build up those numbers in the kitty right now, and that's going to be primarily just so that as soon as we unlock those techs, we're going to be able to build those manors immediately. You'll notice that we've still got 0 villagers that are on food, and we're continuing just to rally out to gold at this point. And we're only 6 minutes into the game, so realistically, if you were being harassed, you'd probably be forced off stone at this point, which is why I'm going to say right now, this is not for every matchup. This is not for your French. This is not for the English. This is for those matchups, those games where you're up against the Chinese, the games where you know that, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of space here. At the 6-minute 15 mark, you can see that we do have condensed land practices now coming through. But yeah, those games that you know that you're going to have a little bit of space, that you think you can get away with it, or whether you've got an ally that's able to put on some early pressure, maybe a Mongol ally, and you're thinking, okay, I can try and focus on my economy and just really get something crazy set up, because the numbers that you see in this game are going to be pretty impressive. So now that we're getting condensed land practices, you'll see that we're getting a specialized pick. We're not really. I was thinking out loud for a second. I was like, hold on a minute, this could make sense, and I was like, no, it doesn't. So now that we've got condensed land practices through, immediately we're dropping 1, 2, and then we'll drop our 3rd mana as well. We've got the resources for it. The main barrier here is just simply going to be having that gold, and you can see now we've actually got a decent chunk of gold that's in as well. So putting all 3 of our manas down at the exact same time. And now we'll be looking to save up for that next upgrade, the open field system. And then from there, just because we do generate so much gold, or we do require so much gold in this strategy, the main thing that we're going to be looking for is getting these upgrades, specialized pick, as soon as we reasonably can. And I don't think there's a reason to do it before now, but now that, because we're racing towards the manors, and the sooner we get all of our manors online, the sooner they start contributing, then we can start thinking about upgrades. So that's sort of the mindset. I did do a little bit of testing with specialized pick earlier, but it just makes sense in my opinion. So now that we've got the open field system coming through, now we can look to get that specialized pick upgrade through. And you will see that we are still rallying out towards the gold. We've got a huge amount of vills that are out here. And one of the things that we're going to start looking for now is when our vills are about to hit that 300 stone left on the stone outcropping, we won't need stone any longer. We're coming in on that 8-minute mark. We're going to be pulling these vills in. They're going to be moving over towards food and going to be contributing to our age up through that gathering. So here, we're now picking up specialized pick. That's going to be our main focus. We will also look to grab the muster the nobles as well before we age up. But this open field system is about to come through. So now that we've collected enough stone, we'll move the vills onto food. Now that we're about to collect enough wood, we'll be sure to move all of those villagers onto food as well. The age up, or rather the open field system has come through, so we're dropping 1, 2, and we'll be dropping a third one right as we've got enough wood for it. We actually do have enough wood for it right now, so there is that third mana coming through, so that gives you 9 manas all dropped before 8 minutes 30, which is not a bad little timing right there. These wood bills all migrate over to food, and we're still rallying out to gold here. So we've got ourselves quite a bit of gold villagers out here, 17 vills at the moment, and you do see that we've got noble or muster the nobles. We've actually queued this up. The moment that the vills start the last mana, we always do with 3. I feel like this is the most optimal number where you get a good compromise between speed and also you get a good compromise between efficiency with your villagers. Keep in mind that you do want to try and get these guys up as quickly as possible. I actually haven't done the maths on it yet, but if we just in fact, I should probably do this now that I think about it, finding what the optimal number is, but just considering the fact that these generate wood and food per minute, if it takes 45 seconds for you to get it up there, and you can get that bad boy up in half the time, then it's going to be generating those resources. But obviously, you're going to be losing villager seconds while you do that. So that's that number that we're going to have to work out is somewhere probably in the region of about 2 to 3 villagers. Anyway, well, let's continue on. So we've now got that one through. You can see the timing on that. We managed to get every single one. We got 11 demi-lancers. They all arrived just before the 9-minute mark, so not too bad here. And we're now heading towards our castle age. We're continuing to rally out towards the gold. One of the things that we're going to look to do now is we're going to be securing a secondary gold. This is not enough gold for us here. So there's 2 ways that you can do that. You can look to go something safe, or you can look to go something a little bit more crazy. But I think the most important thing is just doing it where the opponent doesn't think you're going to be, if that makes sense. So as an example, like the opponent might think you're going to go here, whereas for me, this is the one that makes the most sense. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of our villagers, we're going to grab our demi-lancers, we're going to head out over towards that direction, and we're going to be looking to put down the white tower. At the same time, we're also going to be rallying towards the gold. So we are just on gold as hard as we possibly can for the duration of this game, and we're looking to put the white tower down. Once again, we're going to be looking to offset it so that we've got space for it right on the edge. We want to make sure those vills stay in nice and close. We'll just get one villager to build the mining camp and then build the white tower. And then from here, this is going to guarantee that not only we've got an age up, but we've got ourselves a secure gold. You technically don't need to do this. I will say right now, it is possible with the gold that you've got to get up to Imperial and do all the stuff that you want to. The only thing is, for the longevity of the game, you probably will want to do this. But yeah, I think realistically, it's definitely not a part that you need to, because what we're doing right here is incredibly dangerous, right? Like, if there was any kind of pressure that the enemy was putting on, this would be incredibly dangerous for us to do. So we would most likely be keeping this closer to the town center. So now that the age up is through, we've got that secondary gold, we can start to look at further musters that we could do. So we could go in for the Shire Levy. Probably not worth it at this point, the Shire Levy, because your yeomen aren't going to be shadow teching. So here, our demi-lancers have shadow teched, which means they've automatically been upgraded to veteran. And because of that, they're quite strong in the sense that the moment that you age up, they are the strongest they'll ever be, and they're only losing value as time goes on, because it's more likely that your enemy ages up and then gets their upgrades through as well. So the sooner that you can fight with demi-lancers, definitely the better that you can do it. But obviously, we want to also take fights that we're going to be winning. So now we're looking for that Imperial moment, and you can see that we have generated more than 1,000 wood over the last couple of minutes, which is just incredible when you think about the amount of resources that you're pulling in from this. Another thing to note is that you do have scootage. I don't know if that's pronounced scottage or scootage, but this is another upgrade that you can look at getting, very similar to Tithe Barns. One of the things to note, though, is that there is a lot of value in this. This is a huge amount of value. You're talking about 9 manas, each one producing 40 gold per minute. Where were we? 40 gold per minute. It's a lot. So, yeah, definitely something to consider when you're aging up. When you've got 9 manas, it pays itself off in about 2 minutes, which is incredible. So now we're going to be aging up with the Wingard Palace. We're going to be doing that with all of the villagers in our main base, just primarily because we want to keep these guys out here busy doing their thing. And you can see even right here with the mining camp offset, the villagers still have a bias over towards this side of the mining camp. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it does that, but to the extent where it's like, this is very clearly a much shorter difference or distance, and yet they're still going all the way around here. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know what you can do to fix it, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just how the AI works. Because the trouble is, even if you end up putting the mining camp on this side, then they're just going to go over here and do the exact same thing. So yeah, it's a strange thing. So age up comes through, 12 minutes 18, not a bad little timing. Immediately, our demi-lancers have been leveled up, so they're now elite demi-lancers, so they're stronger. Of course, when we aged up with the White Tower, we also got a couple of units as well, the Earl's Guard. And of course, throughout all of this, we haven't changed anything. We're still rallying towards gold. We've got 29 villages on gold. Those initial 14 that started out, those were the 5 from over here, the 9 from over here. They have stayed on food throughout this, and we made sure to rally them back after we built the Wing Guard. We're also now going to be able to do the Earl's Retinue, which is an army of Demi-Lancers and Hobbler. We don't care too much about the Hobbler, but the Demi-Lancers, they're already elite upgraded, right? So we already want, we want them. They're not the best units, I will say right now. They're not the strongest units, but they're still, you know, they're still decent, and they're Imperial age now. So now that we've aged up, we're also going to be looking at the Shire Levy for the Yeomen, or the Yeomen, sorry. So we've got the 9 that you start out with, but you also get the extra 8, so a total of 17. It's not a huge amount of value that you're really getting from the Shire Levy, but at the same time, it's still units that you're getting without having to create production facilities, right? If you were going to get 17 Yeomen out right now, you would have had to have had an archery range, what, like 6 minutes ago, roughly 6 minutes ago, maybe a little bit less, 5 minutes ago, somewhere in that region, and be producing non-stop and have all those resources, whereas here you're just kind of like getting a shipment almost of them from the home city. And now we're about to hit that exact militia program. So one of the things that we're doing is dropping down a market. We've done quite a bit of market trading, so this is important. Whenever you've got a civilization that generates resources and you can't really control what you want, but you can control how you spend, very much it is in your interest to get the market down, because it just allows you that extra freedom. So now we can get the exact militia program, and here at the 14-minute mark is when we would really be looking to kick it into gear. Archery ranges come down. We're now looking for veterancy on our yeomen. Scutage is also coming in here, so we'll start trickling in a bit of extra gold as well, which is definitely going to help us out. All of these buildings are going to start adding in more gold. We're about to run out of gold, speaking of gold. But now you're about to see our final pop here, which is where all of our big units come in at the 14-minute and 20 mark, and this is where we are at our most powerful. A huge amount of military units has just come through. If we take a look and see how much we've actually just got, it is a ridiculous amount, 61 military units. A lot of this is going to be Imperial Age stuff, so the Demi-Lancer, as an example, you've got you've got the Castle Age Earl's Guard, and you've also got the Yeomen, which are Feudal Age, but they are about to be upgraded. And it's imperative that you upgrade these units just because of how many you've got. You've got 24 yeomen. That's a lot. You don't want to just leave them as age 2. You want to try and get those upgrades. So that's what we're looking to focus on now. We want to try and get the yeoman upgrade to Imperial. We want to look to try and get the upgrade here for our Earl's Guard. And I've tested a number of different strategies with this. I've looked to go into, say, 4 or 5 Raxes upon Imperial Age and getting out a whole bunch of Earl's Guard. But the reality is you've already got production sorted. It's just that it is in the Wingard Palace, and you want to try and take advantage of that. So Earl's Retinue makes a lot of sense here. The problem is if you go into a whole bunch of Raxes and make men-at-arms, you're losing value elsewhere. So I think it's imperative that you take advantage of the Wingard Palace. You look to try and maximize the bonuses that you get from the Earl's Retinue, but at the same time, you're maximizing these boosts or these things that you're receiving from the Earl's Retinue. By the way, I think these guys came out after, if we take a look, I'm pretty sure what happened here. So these guys all came out because I'm only realizing after I actually played this game. So the way it works is even if you don't have the population space for it, it will still give you the units, but it puts them out in sets. So you will get a set of 1 of each. So here you can see that there's 1 of each. So once we've freed up the housing population, we've subsequently got the units that have come out. So make sure you've got housing population, but even if you don't need to be worried. You'll still get your units eventually. It's just that it appears to need population to get all 3 units out at the same time, and then it will then trigger. So that's what's happened there, because we put the house down and obviously they've gone, okay, well, here's 2 sets that have immediately come through, and that's where they come from. But now you can see that we've started to get our upgrades through for our Elite Earl's Guard. We're starting to get our upgrade for our Elite Yeoman. And at this point, we're still on our starting sheet, right? We're 15 minutes into it. Obviously, we collected quite a few sheep. We're getting out big pops of Demi-Lancers. So I think there's definitely a lot of viability in this. The question's going to be about how much can you actually get away with it. And that's why I said when it comes to this strategy, there's 2 components to it. Obviously, there's a build order, an opening, which I think is probably going to make a lot of sense for people to take away with it. When it comes to the wider strategy, it's probably going to be a little bit more similar to, you know, like the fast Imperial that you see out of the Ottoman. Like, how much can you actually get away with? How much are people going to let you get away with? Because the reality is, when people see a White Tower, they're not gonna mess around. Like, they're not gonna fuck around and find out with a White Tower. Nobody wants to do that. So there's definitely some validity to this. And if we take a look at like a little quick stock take here at the 15-minute and 40-minute mark, how much gold have we actually used? It's quite a bit. So this one is about to run out. It's got 89 left in it. This one right here has got 300 left in it. So I think it's imperative that you do secure that secondary gold. How you go about securing that, though, is definitely going to be dependent on the game state when it comes to this type of thing. But as you can see with this army that we're pushing in with right now, we've got 69 units. Nice. We've also got, obviously, these 6 that are back here. I only realized at the end of the game when I was looking over things, I was like, hold on a minute. Oh, I completely forgot about these guys. So you're talking about a huge amount of units that have come through. We've also been quite efficient with our resources as well. The main key here is the market and actually utilizing that wood so that we're selling all of that wood, and basically that wood is, you know, 45 wood per minute is actually being turned into like 25 gold per minute. That's essentially what it's being turned into, because we're managing to spin that around and making it become gold. So now our elite upgrade for Yeoman is about to come through before the 16-minute mark. Now is when we would look to fight against an enemy. We would, at this point, also potentially be looking at moving into the gunpowder contingent for the 2 Reboldiquins and the Culverin. So this is another way that you could definitely play it. If you wanted to play a little bit slower paced, then you could definitely go into that, and that's what you could do with your wood. But other than that, that is essentially it. If we take a look now, that's we're just going to leave it there. But that's it. I mean, as I said, I'm going to be leaving this down below, the build order. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them. Any constructive criticism, feel free to chuck them in. Any hate, go for it. I don't mind. And other than that, we'll leave it there. But I'm curious what you think about this, whether you think you can do better, whether you think you'll get away with it. I'm curious to see what you say. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching.